And welcome to RTF Sports Talk. I'm the host of the show, Michael Buckheischer. I'm joined, as always, by Matthew Lyle. Matthew, how are you doing today? And a big congratulations is in store for you as well, my friend. Congratulations on thing that's happened this weekend. Billy Hatton, welcome to the show as well. How are you doing today? Well, and why don't we just go ahead and jump right into the college football here before we get too carried away into the NFL. Matthew, I'm just going to start with you on this one. Ohio State blasted Michigan. I believe the final score was 63-39. And as of right now, everybody has them in the college football playoffs. What do you think on that win? And are they in the college football debate?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. On the other hand, I thought Michigan would win this game. I thought they were playing better than Ohio State, but that's the one thing about rivalry games. You know they're going to get up for him. Haskins played like the guy who I thought that was going to win the Heisman at the beginning of the year. The way that he came out strong, he played like that yesterday. I believe he had 5 touchdowns. Those crossing routes are just killing Michigan. More teams should just adopt that way of doing things if they can get the protection. But yeah, just like Matthew said, they're definitely gonna need a lot of help. They behind a lot of teams right now. We know if 3 of those teams stay undefeated, they are locked to get in. I don't think that they're gonna jump Oklahoma team who's gonna play a Texas team who's still ranked, who's gonna move up again. They get that rematch with them. So I think Ohio State need a lot of help, but yeah, they're definitely going to be in the conversation going forward. They still have the Big Ten title game against Northwestern, so there's still a lot to see there. But yeah, I think they need a bunch of help, but they're in the discussion for sure.
Well, and speaking of Oklahoma, they did beat West Virginia last night, 59-56 here. So the conversation is kind of between Ohio State and Oklahoma as of right now to get into that last 4 seed here. So Matthew Lyle, what is your takeaway from that Oklahoma West Virginia game?
I mean, it was what we thought it'd be. We thought it'd be a basketball game on a football field. It pretty much was. I was surprised that Oklahoma was never able to really pull away. Well, I guess I probably shouldn't put more on Oklahoma. I was surprised that West Virginia didn't buckle when I thought they would. There was an opportunity for them to really just put their head down and give up, and they went in. They scored right before the half. That made it a closer game. So I was a little surprised that West Virginia fought as tough as they did. But it's one of those things like when you go to a concert or when you go to a game and it's first come first serve seating. And right now, Oklahoma's right there by the door getting ready to get their ticket, and Ohio State's 20 people behind. I mean, it's first come first serve when in this playoff event, and you got Oklahoma who's probably going to be sitting right there at 5. Maybe even, or probably going to be in the top 4. and then you got Ohio State, who's probably going to be sitting back at 7 or 8. So, it would take a collapse by Oklahoma versus Texas and Ohio State to perform a miracle against Northwestern for them to kind of jump what I think Oklahoma's done. Because Oklahoma also, Billy brought it up with Haskins, that yesterday was the Haskins that Billy had wanted to see from the beginning. Kyler Murray's kind of been that star the entire game, the entire year. He would be running away with his Heisman if it wasn't for that dude down in Bama putting up crazy numbers in 3 quarters. But Kyler Murray's just been – so they're not going to have any problem at all putting Oklahoma in there with a Heisman candidate, Kyler Murray. Right now, I think they are several seats above Ohio State.
Well, yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. I think Oklahoma will get in as long as they win, because either Georgia or Alabama is going to lose, and I predict that to be Georgia. So Oklahoma is just going to slide right up in there. I think they will beat Texas this go around. So, just Ohio State, they have a lot. And Matthew just mentioned that. I had said Kyler Murray is probably my Heisman winner. But after what I've seen Tua do yesterday, it'll be hard just not to give it to him, after what you see him do. But, yeah, I think Oklahoma is a little ways in front of Ohio State, and I think they get in as long as they win out.
Well, and just to add to Matthew's point here, Texas did beat Oklahoma earlier this season, so it wouldn't be a reach to see Texas upset Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship. So just to throw that out there before.
Yeah, but that game was also in Austin. It's going to be different this time. It's not going to be there. They had the home crowd and they only won by 3. So I think this time Oklahoma, I think they do their thing this time.
Well, a little bit to your point there, Billy. It is a neutral site game. It's the Red River rivalry. I think Texas was pretty heavily represented in the crowd. But to Mike's point, I would actually favor Texas more if Texas hadn't beat them the first time. It is so tough for a team to upset a team twice, because the first time you catch them sleeping, you catch them off guard, you catch them looking towards the next game. It's going to be tough knowing that Texas is capable. If Oklahoma had beat Texas by 40, I'd say watch out for Texas. But since Texas beat Oklahoma, Oklahoma's not going to take them lightly. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm sure we'll pick next week or later in this coming week. But I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma just doesn't take them to the woodshed on this one.
And
that's a good point.
Yeah, and you never know what Texas team is going to show up. Are they going to be the Texas team that showed up and lost against Maryland earlier this year, or the team that showed up and took Oklahoma to the wire? So moving on here to the Pac-12, there were a lot of people high on the Washington State, stock here for a long time, but they did lose to number 16 Washington last night, 28-15, a upset that I did pick just for those that you do care about that. So Matthew Lyle, what is your takeaway from that game?
Well, but while you're tooting your own horn, remember, Mike, I picked that one too.
You did.
Being a Kentucky football fan has taught me a lot of things over the last 20 years, that you're not quite there yet. Even this year, we came out, we did some great things, and then when it came time to go on the road to Texas and Texas A&M and Tennessee, or we host a powerhouse like Georgia, you really learn that you're not quite there yet.
Kentucky fan, I was very concerned about the game yesterday versus Louisville, because those rivalry games are a beast. And when you take a rivalry team that is better than you on paper, it typically doesn't go your way. And that's what I saw yesterday, or I believe it was Friday. That's what I saw. I just saw it just looked like Washington State was back to being little brother again.
Yeah, I didn't have a ton of stock in Washington State, but I thought the season that they was having, Minshew, I thought he was having a pretty good season. As Matthew alluded about a few shows ago, that's what all Washington State quarterbacks do, or Mike Leach quarterbacks do. They put up a lot of yards. I just thought this was their year. I was wrong about that. Washington clearly is still the big brother, and that's basically what you got there. You got the team that was better, still being better.
Are we there?
Yeah.
Looks like we lost Billy.
Billy, we lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Are you finished with your thought there? Because it seemed like it kind of cut off there mid-sentence.
Oh yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I was done.
Oh, okay. Well, moving on here to just some other scores. We are talking about basketball scores earlier on the football field. Texas A&M and LSU did go into 7 overtimes last night. Just some fun thought here. Just the overtime scores alone was 43-41 Texas A&M, but the final score was 74-72 in the end. LSU losing that matchup in 7 overtimes, just like I was mentioning. So Matthew Lyle, what is your takeaway from this one? Is LSU as good as you thought they were, or is Texas A&M that much improved?
Well, I mean, I thought they were both pretty solid. I thought it was to a point where you're getting to the late end of the game of the season. If you watch the game, which when you hear 7 overtimes, you think that's exciting. It really wasn't. It was a lot of small plays. A lot of runs for losses. Pop a big. It wasn't your typical Big 12 shootout. It was a very SEC game that just happened to run into a lot of overtimes. And, I was so hard on the NFL for their ties. I love what I see in the college football playoffs because once you get on that 25, anybody can score. And then after your third overtime or at the third overtime, you got to start going for twos, which makes everything, up in the air. This game could have went 20 overtimes if you was able to kick extra field or extra points. So, I'm sorry. I think they're both still pretty solid teams. I do think LSU's better than a lot of other teams that are ranked pretty highly in the other conferences. But I think this was just an SEC game, your typical SEC West matchup that doesn't include Alabama. It was your typical SEC West game that happened to get into a snowball effect of once you got into overtimes that anybody can really score from the 25 if you just have a couple of weapons.
I think Texas A&M is a good football team. And although I don't like Jimbo Fisher, the one thing Jimbo Fisher do know how to do is he knows how to recruit. When he was at Florida State, he stayed in that 2-3 range, and he had the best recruiting class one time. So just for me, I don't think LSU is that good. I don't think they should have been ranked 7th anyways. I don't think that's a good football team, and that's being held back by their quarterback. I think if they got a quarterback, I think they'll be fine. That defense will be nice. Greedy Williams will be back next year. I like Brissett. It was Burrow held that team down. I don't think that they was as good as advertised. But yeah, to Matthew's point, that's what I was going to bring. As I was watching that game last night, I was like, this is what I like to see. We're going to get a winner. We're not going to sit out here for 4 hours and have to go home like, man, we didn't even get a winner. I like that about college football. Maybe the NFL should go ahead and be proactive on this situation before we start having a lot of ties instead of being reactive. But knowing the NFL is going to be reactionary.
Alrighty, guys, and let's move on to the final game that we're going to cover here today in depth here. The UCF team did beat South Florida last night 38-10, but a gruesome injury to their quarterback McKenzie. He did lead the game. I believe it's the second quarter when he left the game. I am reading reports here that he tore his ACL, MCL, PCL. It was such a gruesome play that the ESPN broadcasters, they did not replay that injury. So all the prayers go out to him, but I want you guys to take on this game. With their starting quarterback out, is UCF even a consideration for the playoffs, at all at this point? Matthew Lau, I'll start with you on this one.
No, I mean they were never in consideration before because the committee did not want to put them there for anything. That's why when the rankings came out, they started them up as I think it was 11 or 12. They wanted them as far away from this as possible, and they were deep down. They were hoping they were going to lose a game where this wouldn't be a part of the discussion. So they're going to do what we see the NCAA committee do when it becomes the playoff or tournament time. They take injuries into consideration. They'll say, Duke lost this player, so we're going to put him on a 2 seed instead of a 1 seed, or Duke lost this guy earlier in the season. He's back and he's healthy, so even though they have 6 or 7 losses, we're still going to put him up here as a 1 seed. That's something that you see the NCAA basketball committee do all the time. I think we're going to see the football committee take that. I think they're going to leave UCF out, and then when Kirk Herbstreit and Brad Nessler and all those guys are questioning why they did that, they're going to tell them, well, their starting quarterback went down, and we no longer thought they were one of the best 4 teams in the country. And I think they never had any intentions on putting them in there, but this just makes that discussion a little easier for them.
Yeah. I agree. UCF never had a chance, but the only way, or to Matthew's point about the committee using injury, the one time that worked in a team's favor was that 2015 run of Ohio State when J.T. Barrett got hurt, and then what's his name, Cordell. He came in and put up 40, I think, against Wisconsin. And then he went to the Big Ten championship and he put up another 40. And then, in that last game, they got him in. But the discussion was the whole time, was they going to put Ohio State in, or were they going to punish them for J.T. Barrett not being out? I just don't think UCF have that type of quarterback in their backup. He's going to be nice. They're going to run, do a lot of quarterback draws, a lot of zone read. But this team was never a consideration for the college football playoffs anyways.
Yeah, it would have took, to Billy's point, it would have took them already being in the top 5. This injury would have had to happen about a month earlier, and then the backup quarterback would have had to come in looking equally as impressive as Milton did.
Kind of like the Jalen Hurts Tua situation.
Right. Like, it wasn't that. Like, it was like you don't know what that backup's like. You don't get to – you saw it one game, but – there's so many excuses now that the committee can make to leave them out or to even drop them below. Because initially, or like coming into this week, they were ranked above Ohio State. They're going to use this as not only an excuse to keep them out of the Final Four, they're also going to use this as an excuse to drop them below Ohio State, even though they are undefeated and were ahead of Ohio State when the previous rankings came out.
Alrighty, guys. Before we move over to the professional ranks here, I want to ask you guys, what is your current college football playoff looking like at the current time here? Matthew, what is yours?
I wanted chaos. I wanted to prove that I thought that the committee was brazen and gutsy enough and in your face, not caring about your thoughts enough to keep an undefeated Notre Dame team out. There's just not enough impressive teams now. Even Oklahoma or Ohio State being coming from 10 and shellacking Michigan, there's just not enough in-your-face pressure, tough teams. Like, the only way I think now that a team gets left out outside of the 4 without a loss, because I think the 4 is going to be Alabama number 1, Clemson number 2, Notre Dame number 3, and Oklahoma number 4. The only reason the only way that doesn't happen outside of Oklahoma losing is if the Alabama-Georgia game goes 7 overtimes like that Texas A&M game was. If you wanted to say, Matt, how does a team jump in here without one of the big 4 losing, it would literally have to be Georgia losing to Bama 88-86 and 10 overtimes in one of the greatest games ever. But I don't see that happening, so I'm pretty confident that the 4 is going to be – your matchups are going to be Alabama versus Oklahoma, which I'm excited to see that, and then Clemson versus Notre Dame, which I'll still watch.
Yeah, those are exactly my 4: Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. And reason being is Georgia gets to play their way in. If they beat Alabama, there's no way a one-loss SEC champ who looked impressive all year and lost to an LSU team that this committee had ranked at number 7 on the road in Death Valley. Georgia gets to play their way in. So, yeah, they're going to be on the outside looking in. Georgia fans, calm down. You guys win. You guys are going to be in. Now, what gets interesting is a conversation that me and Matthew were just having yesterday. where he said that a one-loss Alabama team, if they lose to Georgia, both of us can agree that Georgia will be in, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Whoever wins the SEC is in.
All right. So let's take it Alabama lose. Will the committee put a one-loss Alabama in front of a one-loss Oklahoma, who is also the Big 12 champ?
I mean, they did it last year. Now, granted, Alabama didn't lose the SEC tournament; they just didn't play for it at all. I would say yes, only based on the fact of what they've seen. They've seen all season long of just Alabama slacking everybody that walked in front of them. Now, I will change my position, because the conversation Billy was alluding to yesterday was that I thought if everybody won out yesterday, that they would jump Michigan in front of Notre Dame and have Notre Dame be 4. That way, if Georgia beat Alabama, they could find a way to keep Notre Dame out and still have Georgia and Bama. I don't think that's the case anymore, just because I think with Notre Dame winning last night and everybody and the team on their tail, Michigan losing, they're pretty much locked into that 3 spot. So now it would be, like Billy brought up, it would be a one-loss Alabama versus a one-loss Oklahoma. And to your point, Billy, or to the point that we had earlier on the discussion, Oklahoma's one loss came to a pretty rough, a pretty decent, mediocre, whatever you want to call them, Texas team, where the committee would also say, look, Bama's loss came from the SEC champions, one loss Georgia. I think they would find a way to keep Bama in. And they would also find a way to have Bama and Georgia potentially meet in the championship game, knowing that I don't know if there's anyone else in the top 4 that could beat Bama.
So I just don't think that'll happen though. I can't see a one-loss Big 12 champ being jumped by the SEC loser. I get it. Last year, I think what helped them out is they didn't play. So everybody got to watch everybody else, and Alabama's just sitting there like, yeah. But I think this time, if you get a chance to control your destiny as they do now and lose it, I just don't see the committee rewarding that over a team that won their conference, that was hot, and this offense can score. So I don't know. I mean, we'll just have to see. But I don't think neither one of us think Alabama is losing. So I don't think we'll get to even see anyways.
I mean, I don't. But the problem that you're going to run into, and to your point, the committee putting in the team that lost in the SEC championship game, I don't know if this makes it worse, but Alabama last year lost to the team that lost in the championship. Alabama last year didn't lose early in the year like Oklahoma did. Alabama lost this week. They lost the Iron Bowl. They lost week 12 or week 13, however you want to look at it, considering bye weeks. They lost that last week of the season to Auburn, and then Auburn went on to get shellacked by Georgia, and they still welcomed Alabama in with open arms as well as Georgia. So I think if they make it one step further, they went undefeated in the regular season. They're going to go into postseason play, if you consider conference championship postseason play, undefeated. If they lose there, I definitely think they're welcomed in with open arms.
You may have a point.
Okay, well, just to stir the pot a little bit here, why don't we say in the championship week this next week, Ohio State gets beat in their conference tournament, Oklahoma loses, and as well as Georgia loses as well. Who do you guys see sliding into that number four spot if those 3 teams lose?
Georgia.
Yeah. Even if Georgia gets beat by Alabama in the championship game?
There are 2 loss SEC loser, and they lost to Alabama. I mean, there's no shame in that. If you ask me, there's a 2-loss Oklahoma team, there's a 2-loss Georgia team, and there's a 2-loss Ohio State team, and you're giving me that to put in the playoffs, I'm taking Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that starts happening. Yeah, we already know what they're going to do because they want to see Bama and Georgia as much as possible right now.
Yeah,
The
they
only-
want to
the
see
only-
that again.
The only matchup they potentially want to see, other than Bama Georgia, could be Bama Tua versus Kyler Murray, or it could be
Saban Urban.
Saban Urban, but Haskins would have to play nuts in the Big 12 again. Like he would probably have to put up 7 touchdowns, like you alluded to in 15, where that Ohio State team went nuts in the final 5 games of the season. It would have to be like that.
All right, guys, you heard that here first on the RTF Sports Talk here. Matthew and Billy's top 4, pretty much saying they have Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma make it into the college football playoff. So let's move on from the amateur ranks to the professional ranks here, and we're going to go ahead and jump into the NFL pick'ems for the day here. The first game that I want to start with here is we have the Miami Dolphins versus the Indianapolis Colts. This is a 4:25 kickoff. Colts are 5-5 on the season, as well as the Dolphins are 5-5. The last 4 games of each, the Colts are 4-5, and the Dolphins are a measly 2-5, losing to the Packers, Houston Texans, and the Lions. So Matthew Lyle, who do you have on this game, the Colts or the Dolphins, and why?
Give me the Colts. I really like what I'm seeing here. Look, I don't think they have the complete team to make the playoffs or to win a playoff game or to definitely compete at a high level in the playoffs. But give me a team, give me Andrew Luck in that offense versus a questionable wild card contender, if that's what you want to call Miami after they started out pretty hot and they've been kind of rough here, as Mike alluded to. Give me Andrew Luck and those Colts. I'll take that. I don't even think this game's going to be close. I think Luck puts up a 40-piece, and I think the Dolphins, it's a 20-point win.
Yeah, give me Andrew Luck on this one. At home, T.Y. Hilton is back. Now, they are missing a stable of tight ends, but they still have Eric Ebron. They're hot right now. And they're playing against a team that nobody really knows what they are. They did get Ryan Tannehill back. He is coming back today. But now, how's this chemistry with the receivers after being gone so long? So I'm looking for a lot of overthrows, maybe a 2-pick game today by Ryan Tannehill. Give me the Indianapolis Colts.
And just to allude to you guys is how hot the Colts are, Andrew Luck has thrown 3 touchdowns in his last 7 games, dating back to week 3 or week 4 here. So moving on to the next game on the docket here, we have the Seattle Seahawks traveling all the way to the East Coast to play an early game versus the Carolina Panthers. Panthers are 6-4 on the season, 5-0 at home, and the Seahawks are 5-5, 3-3 on the road here. Matthew Lyle, who do you have in this one?
You know what? This might be where me and Billy differs. I never had faith in the Panthers. I never really trusted what they were bringing to this. I thought they were that team that lacked substance. They could win some games and some exciting facts and some exciting factors, but or fashion. I didn't have faith in them, and maybe I'm a sucker for history, but I always like Russell Wilson and that Seahawk team and Pete Carroll coming down the stretch to at least stumble their way into the playoffs. Now, they may not do anything once they get there, but I will always take Seattle down the home stretch versus a team that's questionable. So give me Seattle here. It's going to be close. I'm not saying they're going to make any kind of blowout, but I think Russell Wilson makes enough plays, so give me the Seahawks.
I'm just at a point where, for me, I think playing at home, Mike, you mentioned it, 5-0 at home. Cam Newton plays better at home. He got that home crowd. He can show out a little bit more. He can be a little bit relaxed. You know, he can put on his Sunday best. I don't trust Russell Wilson. Since he doesn't have a running game and since they dismantled that defense, Russell Wilson has been just an average quarterback. He can make some plays. He can run around the pocket. He can still do that because that's what he always done. But now he doesn't have a defense and a running game to lean on. He's just an average quarterback. I like Cam Newton in this matchup. I think Cam Newton gets 4 touchdowns today, 3 passing, 1 rushing. I think he throws a pick. I like the Panthers by 10.
Alrighty here, and just to add to some stats to this, guys here, when the West Coast teams travel east, if they travel to the Mountain Time Zone, they have a record of 34-19, a winning percentage of 65%. If they travel to the Central Time Zone, they're 60-70, 50% win rate here, give or take. But when they're traveling to the East Coast, they are 35% win rate. All of those stats are since 2003. So the game is definitely in the Carolina Panthers' hands. I guess faith, if you want to say, moving forward here. So moving on to the next game here, a game 3 weeks ago that really, when you were looking forward, you didn't really think of much, but now this game has means something. You have the New York Football Giants 3-7 traveling to the Philadelphia Eagles that are 4-6. The winner of this game is only two games behind the first place Dallas Cowboys. So Matthew Lyle, who do you have on this one?
Maybe at this point, me and Billy are just trying to hold on to our pride and our initial pick. I think it's going to be Philadelphia. I think that team is just too good to miss the playoffs, and I could be way wrong. We've seen potentially better teams do worse. I just think Philadelphia is the better team, and I also think the Giants are going to be the Fitzpatrick team. They're going to be the team that now that everybody's talking about them, about a standing chance, about having life, about, oh, we forgot about you, but now we're going to remember you. I think that's when they go out there and lay a big goose egg. I got the Eagles winning pretty easily.
You took the words right out my mouth because, hey, man, this was my pick. This was my NFC East pick. Give me the Giants. They're rolling right now. Eli and Odell seems to have that chemistry. Saquon Barkley is a beast. He does it all, running the ball, catching the ball. He kind of reminds me of like a Le'Veon Bell type back, but just more explosive. So I like the Giants. I think the Eagles is down in the dumps right now. It don't seem like they're doing much of anything well. Wentz has thrown a couple picks over the last few weeks. Give me the Giants with the upset.
Alrighty, guys, and just to add some more stats to your guys' picks here, the Giants-Eagles rivalry does date back to the 1930s here. The Giants lead the series 86-85, and there's two ties. So Giants in history are winning the series, but in recent history they're 13-3 in the 2010s. So just some insights there. Before we jump into the final game here of the day, let's go ahead and do some quick pick'ems. Matthew Lyle, we'll start with you as always here. So the first quick pick'em game, you have Jacksonville at Buffalo.
Give me Jacksonville. This is a matchup of two circus teams. I'll give the one that's the least dysfunctional. Give me Jacksonville.
I got Buffalo. I think they build off of what they did last week. Shock a Jacksonville team that may not be interested in playing. I like Buffalo.
All right, moving on to the 3-6-1 Cleveland Browns at the 5-5 Cincinnati Bengals. Matthew, who do you got?
This is going to be a good divisional matchup. I think the Bengals are done. I think they shot their shot already. They thought they were going to try to make a playoff run, and it just isn't going to work out for them. On the other hand, you got a Cleveland team that's just trying to get better, not really worrying about wins and losses right now, just trying to put a better-looking product on the field. That seems to be a more manageable hill to climb. Give me the Browns.
Yeah, I like the Browns in this. Baker Mayfield built off of what he did last year. Andy Dalton kind of seemed to taking a step back. Give me the Browns.
All right, moving on to the 7-3 New England Patriots at the 3-7 New York Jets. Matthew, who do you got?
Patriots easily. Gronk's back. I know Brady might be a little shaken up, but it's still the Jets. It seems like they just instill fear in everyone in that division. Give me the Patriots pretty easily.
Yeah, Patriots, kind of like LeBron Cavaliers over the Toronto Raptors. To me, Patriots big, 14, maybe 20 points.
All right, guys. So moving on, we have another West Coast team traveling east for a 1:00 kickoff game. You had the 2-8 San Francisco 49ers traveling to the 3-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who you guys got?
Give me the Buccaneers on this one. I don't know. I know I'm going to be wrong no matter which way I go. Just give me the Buccaneers, and I'll bite this one.
I think the Buccaneers is starting Jameis Winston in this game, if I'm not correct.
That's correct.
Give me Jameis over that 49er defense. And I like the Buccaneers defense. Yeah, give me the Buccaneers. This one is tough.
All righty here. Next up, we have the 2-8 Raiders. I don't know if they're the Los Angeles Raiders, Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders 2-8. Traveling to a 5-5 Baltimore Ravens team where they are starting Lamar Jackson again this week. Matthew, who do you got?
Give me the Ravens. I like their defense. I like Lamar Jackson. I've been on record to say that Lamar Jackson will start to struggle as teams start to get film on him. I don't think the Raiders are putting in that much work to identify any concerns on film. Give me the Ravens.
Yeah, give me the Ravens at home. I think Lamar Jackson will have about another 100 or so yards today. The Raiders don't have anybody on defense that's going to be able to chase them. They let go all of their pass rushers. Give me the Ravens.
All right, guys. Next up here, we have a 4:05 matchup. You have Arizona Cardinals 2-8 taking on the 7-3 Los Angeles Chargers. Who do you guys got, Matthew Lyle?
Yeah, I like the as Matthew get back in there right now.
Yeah, I'm back.
Cardinals and Chargers.
Oh, give me the Chargers. They're by far the better team. But the Cardinals, one thing I think, Larry Fitzgerald just needs 25 more yards to reach a mark that only him and Jerry Rice would have reached. So I think obviously he's going to get that. But give me the Chargers in a big win.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are one of the best teams in the NFL. I don't think they stumbled to this Arizona Cardinals team who's been struggling, trying to find who they are. Yeah, I like the Chargers.
All right, and the last quick pick 'em here. We have another 4:25 kickoff. You have Pittsburgh Steelers 7-2-1 on the season, going to a Denver Broncos team that is 4-6, starting to look good as of late. Matthew Lyle, who do you have on this one?
Man, as much as I want Denver to win this and help New England out a little bit in their playoff seeding or pursuit for that number 2 seed or potentially even number 1 seed, I need Pittsburgh to lose. But, man, they are playing out of their mind right now. Connections between all those receivers are off the charts. Defense stepping up, making some plays. Give me Steelers. I think it's going to be a pretty lopsided win.
I'm taking the Broncos on this. At home, I think they're looking to interrupt some people's postseason plans. I like that Broncos defense. I'm expecting Von Miller today to get a few sacks. The Steelers are kind of high right now, but I like the Broncos at home.
All righty, guys. Those are our quick pick-ems for the day here. So now we're going to get into the Sunday Night Football matchup here. We have the Green Bay Packers traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. The Vikings are 4-1, and the Packers are 4-5-1. These teams did tie back in week 2. So, Matthew Lyle, I'm going to ask you on this one: is the game going to end in a tie? And if not, who do you got and why?
It's not going to end in a tie, and it's going to end in a Green Bay victory. I think Aaron Rodgers is capable of winning these division games, and this is going to be one of them. He's capable of putting on a big show for. I like the Vikings offense. I think they can do some things, but I just don't think they can keep up with Green Bay. And the Vikings defense has really just taken a step back this season. You know, they were one of the elites last year. Everybody thought coming in this year with that offense, they could be a Super Bowl contender, if not a Super Bowl winner. But I just don't think that's the case. Give me Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to win. I don't even know if it's really going to be close. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to kind of control it. Give me 34-17.
No, I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings on this. This is my NFC North pick, and I think they continue to build right here. The one thing about Aaron Rodgers and that Packers team this year is that their 5 losses all came on the road. Minnesota's going to be a tough place to play. Give me 0-6 now on the road for the Green Bay Packers and a team that's struggling. to find who they are as they start to look for their new head coach, giving the Minnesota Vikings.
As of right now, the Minnesota Vikings are hanging on to that sixth and final wild card playoff spot in the NFC, with the Packers kind of fighting their way in. Do you guys see any of these teams making the playoffs at the end of the day, Matthew Lyle?
I do think this is going to be one of the two teams that do make the playoffs. Definitely not going to be both of them, but I do think one of these two, I think they do. I think there's four teams that are going to compete for those two wild card spots. It's going to be these two teams, and then ironically another matchup that we're seeing today, the Panthers and the Seahawks. So I do think the winner of those two games today have a bigger step going to the playoffs. And since I'm going with that pick of the Packers, I absolutely think Aaron Rodgers always has a chance to at least slip into a wild card.
Billy, any thoughts on that?
No, he said it perfectly.
Alrighty, guys. So those are our NFL pick'ems for today. We're going to leave with some closing thoughts. Matthew, do you have any closing thoughts on the day?
Is this where you're wanting my rant or just closing thoughts?
You can do either or, man. The table is all yours, but we're giving some Billy some time too.
That's fine. I'm not trying to be selfish. I was just curious. I didn't want to do anything out of order. A couple of pinpoints. I thought they were being silly when I was watching the game last night because LSU had a pretty solid back named that was number 27, and they kept calling him Leonard Fournette. And I was like, what are they doing? Come to find out it's Leonard Fournette's little brother. Didn't know. Very interesting. I was like, what's going on? Why do they keep calling this guy Leonard Fournette? He didn't get a lot of carries, didn't get a lot of work, but I thought that was just a little fun nugget. I'm very thrilled as a Kentucky fan. Rivalry games, I thought we was going to come in there and lay a goose egg to Louisville and really just struggle. 156-10. We never punted. We should have been 70-10. Had two interceptions in the end zone. Rough one. But I'm so thrilled with that. We're on pace. We had our best regular season since 1977. On pace to win 10 games, which would be huge for our program. And a small, quick rant here. And Billy knows what this is going to be. And I know I'm in the minority when I think this and I have these thoughts. And I'm going to put a disclaimer out here out of respect of not sounding like I contradict myself or anytime that me and Billy are doing predictions or we're doing who I think will be the Final Four of the college playoffs or any other team, I take into consider, or do I think a team's going to win or I think a trade's going to get made? Often I take into consideration what I think the team will do, not what I would do unless I list it as such, but what I think the team's going to do, what I think an organization is going to do, what I think a player is going to do, what I think the committee is going to do. So, going back to the Le'Veon Bell thing, I wouldn't have done what Le'Veon Bell did. I just thought that's what he was going to do. So when it comes to that, that's where a lot of our answers come from. Now, with that being said, if I could do things my way, these playoffs and tournament seedings are 1,000% wrong. Yes, you want to go off best record at times, but there's a lot of other things that you have to take into consideration. Sometimes the best team does not have the best record. Sometimes you can't get awarded for having a goose egg in the loss column. Yes, that's nice. But a lot of times that does not tell the story. Your playoffs, whether it be college football, NCAA football, or college basketball, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, don't even get me started on their playoff setup, or hockey, you got to get the best teams in there. When it comes to NCAA football, give me your best four. If one team, if an Alabama team has 2 losses, but we know for a fact they're the best team out here, put them in. I've not been impressed by Notre Dame. I thought they somewhat struggled with a mediocre USC team. I don't think they should be in. Now, I think the committee's going to let them in, but I don't think they should be in. You look back at the BCS Bowl, the BCS Bowls in the past. The weak American Conference, the weak Big East, the football team, they used to get an automatic bid. So you would have teams 7-5 making BCS Bowl games. Weak, get it out of here. The NFL playoffs, I hate the divisions. In the NFL, the conferences make a little bit more sense, but I hate the division. We got the Chargers, who could easily finish 13-3, won't even get to host a playoff game because of division. We've seen it in the NBA in the past when the East has been so watered down that you win 35 games and you're an 8th seed, but in the West you'll have 50 wins and you miss the playoffs. Get it out of here. I need to see in college football, give me the best 4. In college basketball, I hate you win your conference tournament, you get an automatic bid, get it out of here. Give me my best 68. NFL, give me your best 12. NBA, give me your best 16. Baseball, you all play 160 games, and you got some of the best teams in the division. You had the Yankees and the Cubs, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was the Cubs. Both had some of the best records in MLB.
Red Sox.
And they got in the playoff in a 1-game wild card matchup. Get it out of here. I think Major League Baseball, give me your best 16, best 4 out of 7. We'll move on. The divisions and these conferences, it made sense back in the day when there was a bus, and if you was the Philadelphia Eagles, you couldn't hop on a bus and travel all the way to the West Coast. Now there's planes, trains, automobiles. Get me out of here. The fact that they say that they don't want to get rid of the division because they don't want Boston to have to go to Portland in the playoffs. Well, you got New Orleans in the West. New Orleans is in the East, and they're an Eastern city, and they got to travel all the way to the West for the playoffs. Get the divisions out of here. There's planes. These planes are nicer than most people's houses. Man, get rid of the divisions. Give me the best teams on the field/court all the time. Rant over.
Rant over. Billy Hatton, table's yours. Floor is yours. The airways are yours. Have at it.
Oh man, where do I start? Honestly, man, I'm a talk on Matthew's topic, but I'm deeply hurt, man. My Seminoles this is a bad season. I don't think since I've been alive, I got all 3 national championships. I got the Orange Bowls and all this and all these other bowls, and then I sit here today and I'm gonna have to watch everybody else's team come. December and January. And I'm going to have to look, and I'm probably still going to have the same offensive, the same head coach next year. And all I hear is, well, everywhere he's been, he's made the team better in the second year. And I said, yeah, that'd be cool if Florida State was a team known for 8-4 seasons. Like, we have championship aspirations. I don't think this guy is going to be there. Now, to Matthew's point, I agree that we should have the best 4 teams or the best whatever teams. I don't like the division things either. But when you have a ranking system, you have to reward losing. I don't care if you're the best team or not. You have to reward. You cannot reward losing. That makes no sense. When you have a ranking system, you have the criteria there in place saying when you win, you go up, you lose, you go down. But I agree the best 4 teams or whatever it is should make it in no matter what, but that's not how it is because you have to be fair to other teams. Just because you're Alabama, that means you should just jump me just because, you decided to lose right now. And there's a reason why Alabama always losing at the back end of their schedule because they don't play anybody in the first half of their schedule. So in the back half of their schedule, they're playing the LSU and they playing the Auburn, teams that are normally good. So if Alabama didn't lose, they would be in there. They control their destiny every year. Alabama, you win, you're going to get in regardless. Just for me, you have to, or you cannot reward losing when other teams are winning.
Well, that's the thing, though. And I'm not accusing you of saying this, Billy, because I know this is kind of the common census. But where does it say, or where is it written that in rankings? Because when you rank something, it's based on if I did my rankings of my favorite pizza places, it's going to be best to worst, or vice versa if it's a countdown. Where does it say that winning and losing automatically equates to moving up or dropping down. And because not all wins and losses are equal. If you have a team that wins, but they never have to play anybody ranked in the top 5, and you have another team who has to play 2 people in the top 5. And like I was on the if let's just say, for example, Texas A&M had looked great, but they had 2 losses, I would be an advocate for them getting into the NCAA to the football tournament, because if their 2 losses came by a 2-point loss to Clemson and I think it was a 10-point loss to Bama, that is not the same as Michigan's 2 losses. That's not the same as Ohio State if they had 2 losses. So I get the common census that if you win, you're up, and if you lose, you're down. But I just think it opens up more can of worms, because you have people saying, how's this 1-loss team behind all these 2-loss teams, or how's this undefeated? Being in a lot of Kentucky groups with a lot of older people who are Kentucky fans didn't understand how Kentucky was 4-0, but behind a 1-loss Michigan, behind a 1-loss powerhouse team. And I had to explain to them, even though this is my beloved team, undefeated does not necessarily mean you're the best. Does not even mean you're in that discussion. So when they were like, how's Michigan ahead of us? Or how did we beat Florida, but Florida's ahead of us after they beat LSU? Well, because Florida's looking better. Sometimes it comes to a point where you got to put those records aside and just trust your eyes. And I think we often try to get too caught up in, I've seen Notre Dame pages put out playoff bound. I think they're going to make it in the playoffs, but we're dealing with actual people here. And if they follow the true eye test, it would not shock me even to this day if Notre Dame didn't make the playoffs. So I just, wins and losses, they mean something, but to me, they don't mean everything.
Yeah, I get that. Wins and losses should mean everything. But if you take Oklahoma's schedule right now, let's just say Oklahoma, and you take Alabama's schedule right now, one of them had 1 loss. For me, I think Oklahoma has played better teams throughout the season. Throughout the season, for me, I think they have played better teams. Now, coming down the stretch, obviously, with LSU, Auburn, and then the Georgia game, that kind of beefs up Alabama's schedule. But all that stuff ain't guaranteed. Being able to play a Georgia team is not guaranteed. It could have been a Kentucky team, or it could have been a Florida team, who I don't think is on the level of Georgia. So just for me, yes, wins and losses and who you win and who you lose to should matter. But I just think just to say, give me this team just because they look better, when you can take anybody in a 1-game scenario. If I just got 1 game to beat you, not a series. Because if I had a series, yeah, I'm picking Alabama, the best team. But in a 1-game scenario, you never know what could happen.
See, and I get that. And I guess the thing is, I don't put as much stock. I mean, obviously, when you're having debates with everyone else, you want your team to have a good number by their name. But I don't put a lot of stock in those. Like, for example, I'm looking at Oklahoma's schedule. The only decent win, if you take the number out of the way, the only decent win I see is the recent one against West Virginia. They beat a Kansas team, no rank. They beat a pretty mediocre Oklahoma State team. They beat a bad Texas A&M team. They beat a bad K-State team. They beat a very mediocre TCU team. They lost to Texas. They beat a bad Baylor team. They beat a bad Army team. They beat an Iowa State team that I think is probably overrated. They beat a bad UCLA and a bad Florida Atlantic team. So I look at that, and I look at what Bama's done. I think Mississippi State's better than any team on here, minus probably Texas and West Virginia. I think LSU's better than every team on here. I think Auburn's better than probably most teams on here except Texas and West Virginia. And I think Georgia's better than every team on here. So when I look at that, and people's like, oh, but look who Oklahoma's beat, I'm saying who? Now, obviously, prior to Friday night's game, that got more impressive because I really do like Will Grier in West Virginia. I think they're a pretty solid team, and Kyler Murray and Oklahoma look good there. But if you're comparing schedules, there's nothing on there that's like, oh, my God, that's super impressive.
Just for me, too. Neither team has played a tough schedule, because if you tell me right now, honestly, the only team on Alabama's schedule right now that was a good matchup is going to be this Georgia team. Auburn is not a good team. LSU is not a good team. Neither one of these teams have proved to do anything this year. And this Mississippi State team, I get it's the SEC, I think, in you. But if you look at these teams' non-conference schedule, there's a reason why they're not losing until they play in-conference matchups. When they play Mississippi State, toughest out-of-conference schedule is Kansas State, and then Alabama is Louisville. I give LSU Miami, but me and you both agreed a few weeks ago, Miami is also not a good team. So just for me, there's a reason why they're never losing out of conference and they're only losing in conference because their out of conference schedule is not good at all. And I get it, but just for me, I there's a reason why the SEC during the regular season doesn't lose to any other conference because their out of conference schedule is not good.
So here's the frustration for me, Billy, and I'm not saying just you because I have this discussion a lot, and I wouldn't say I'm an SEC fan. I just know the SEC because my favorite team's in there, and I watch them more than anything. I mean, my TV's on the SEC network more than it's probably on any other channel, including on off. But the thing with the SEC, and I guess this is the part that frustrates me, is everyone wants to down the SEC until it's time to win their argument with the SEC. So, for example, everybody says, "Oh, LSU's bad. They're not good. Auburn's not good. Texas A&M's not good. All this, whoop, whoop, whoop. Mississippi State's not good." So, to a couple of your points, if Auburn's not good, I mean, they select probably the best team in the Big Pac-12, which isn't a good conference, but they still beat the best team out there. Get out of here. Get that whole conference out. You said, who does Alabama play out of conference schedule? Now, I'll give you that, but I think Alabama has, A, been so dominant, and B, just not really been lucky. And, look, I'm not defending the Citadel. I'm not defending Georgia State. I'm not defending those picks. But Alabama scheduled the game with Florida State right after Florida State won the national title. When it came time to play Florida State, they were a bad team. Alabama scheduled Louisville right as Lamar Jackson won the Heisman and was expecting to play a senior Lamar Jackson this year. Lamar Jackson bounced that Louisville team's god off. And then you say, well, who's Oklahoma played out of conference? UCLA? Florida Atlantic? None of those are good or scary to me. What about Clemson? Well, I was having this discussion Clemson played a tougher out of conference schedule than Alabama. Who'd they play? Texas A&M. Well, Bama slacked Texas A&M. Oh, Texas A&M's a bad team. What? Like I said,
but the out of conference schedule is better still. So you're telling me Texas A&M is not better than Louisville?
They are.
Oh, okay then. So then they just played South Carolina. That's another out of conference. That's another out of conference game. Albeit they play that game every year. They know them. Both teams are in South Carolina, but they play a tougher schedule out of conference.
Yeah, but you
Alabama
don't have to play
plays teams. You just said it. The Citadel and Georgia State and Louisville. Come on, that's three takeoff games. And I know they did not expect Lamar Jackson to still be in college after winning the Heisman, after doing what he did. That just makes no sense to me. It's like they're going to play a bad Miami team next year, a Miami team who haven't been good, and they probably scheduled this game 3 years ago.
I'm just saying, why would you go out and schedule the best if you already got to play the best in conference? I mean,
but you're not playing the best in conference. Look at the SEC bowl record. Look at the SEC bowl record. Look at the SEC bowl record last year. They're 5-6 in bowl games last year, and that's with Alabama and Georgia both making it to the championship game. 5-6. That's not a good conference. When it's time to play the good teams in bowl season,
the SEC ignorance is crazy. The ignorance for the SEC is crazy. Oh, Billy, Texas A&M's so great when Clemson plays them, but when Alabama plays them, they play nobody. Get it out of here, Mike. I'm out. This conference.
I said they played nobody out of schedule.
Is ridiculous. They played nobody out of schedule. Ignorance is ridiculous.
Who did they play out of schedule?
Tell me who. The SEC ignorance is ridiculous. The SEC ignorance is ridiculous. Oh, Texas A&M. Texas A&M's trash. LSU's trash.
Who did they play out of conference?
Texas A&M's trash. LSU's trash. Oh, but they beat them out of conference.
All I said is ignorant. See, listen, that's what SEC guys do. They can't handle facts. SEC guys can't handle facts. And SEC guys realize that Alabama is the only reason that conference is still holding any credit with anybody. Alabama is the only team that does anything in that conference. Look at Kentucky. Oh, they're a top 15 team. How? Get out of here. got smacked at home. Get that out of here. LSU, what have they done all year? No, nothing. These teams have done nothing, and they get in the bowl games, and they get in these bowl games, and they lose when they play the top teams from these other conferences. I don't care about you beating up on each other. When you play some good teams out of conference, they lose. Simple.
All right, guys. So we're going to end that on that. As always, great conversation between Billy and Matthew. I do have to say, dogging my Kansas State Wildcats was kind of below the belt. But, hey, we'll let it slide this time, boys. But as always, guys, thank you for joining us. We'll be back to Monday morning here at 9:45 a.m. as we break down the Monday night matchup. And just some more college as well. So join us tomorrow, guys, and we'll be here 9:45 a.m. on the East Coast. Bye.
If you came to groove, there's no reason to prove.
RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk.
And now you've got yourself something funky.
RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk.